Okay. Hey, hi, how are you? Hope your week's been good so far. In this video, gonna do a bit of a longer one, and honestly, whether you're a supervisor, a safety professional, a health and safety committee member, a manager, or an HR person, there's likely going to be something in this segment for you. We get hit with multiple priorities throughout the day. Things are in a constant state of change these days. And honestly, with that change, priorities and deadlines seem to move, and usually in the worst way. Now, a big difficulty with all this is the people involved. I mean that as the workers, the worker management. And not that they're difficult, but here's a hypothetical, and not an unheard of situation. You get a call from HR telling you a worker is starting today and needs an orientation, and you're wondering in your back of your mind if he or she is up to the job. After all, in the same position, there are two workers on an extended medical leave right now. You're also told another one in a similar position is coming back on a graduated return to work. And there's going to be some accommodation needed. And of course, HR has no clue as to what's needed, and they wonder if you have an idea. After all, you're the safety person and this should be your job. Sound familiar? You're likely thinking, why didn't they catch some of this during the hiring or when the person started? During their orientation? And is there something in the job hazard assessments that isn't being caught? I hear you. Honestly, I have a fantasy I'd like to share with you.
Oh, my.
No, not that kind. Get your mind out of the gutter. It's a safety fantasy. A fantasy about safety. A safety utopia, if you will. I have this notion how an organization could start reconfiguring the way they manage their employees right from the get-go. A way to create a safer working environment. A safety utopia, if you will. Are you curious? I hope so. Oh, and a fair warning, this video might trigger some folks because you're likely going to hear some of my opinions. If you're new to the channel, yeah, you're definitely going to hear some. Now, this all stemmed from some recent conversations I've had with colleagues regarding how not only competency isn't looked at, but actual working ability during orientations. Aren't these some of the issues, though, that should be caught during an orientation? What does it take to get a best practice orientation completed? In fact, what does one look like? The problem lies with what some organizations see as a priority when a new employee starts, and in some ways, I think their priorities are often, misdirected at best. Some worry about the very first thing being a urine test to see if there is drugs in the system. Now, far be it from me to judge anyone, but the last time I looked, the company doesn't have the right to dictate what somebody else does on their free time. Now, unless, of course, they're paying for that time. Or there's another agreement in place, such as you must not indulge or imbibe 24 hours prior to duty as a condition of employment. And if that's agreed upon at hire, well, then you have to live up to it. But let me be clear also, I'm not advocating for drug use. In fact, one of my favorite sayings is, they don't call it dope because it makes you smarter. But I'm also saying I'm not against taking steps to ensure that a sober workforce is present and there on the job, and that's one that's operating to the highest level of clarity possible. It just seems like folks are trying to build their respective workforce in a bass-ackwards way. Now, let's use the analogy of a carpenter building a house. Folks are starting with the second floor window and then running down to the front steps and then back up to the roof again. No order. Besides that, some other organizations see beyond most being emergent, like random drug testing, there seems to be this focus on diversity, inclusion, and equity as a priority.
I see what you did there.
Over something essential and actually smart, like a genuine, robust health and safety culture. Or there seems to be a trend where orientations focus on corporate history and direction rather than where the muster area is and how to get first aid. I'm not saying that company history and shaping a collective culture isn't important, but it's also essential to remember the first few shifts for a new employee is akin to them trying to drink out of a fire hose. And often the things that truly matter seem to just get tossed in here and there amongst competing priorities. A good orientation allows you to see and understand if this employee is capable of performing the tasks or not. It's more than just showing them where the washroom and lunchroom are. Wouldn't you think orienting your new hire to the workplace, looking at hazards and controls first, and that should be the first order of business? Maybe the second is seeing if he or she can actually live up to their resume. Bold thought, isn't it? Okay, so another point of clarity. It's about the job and doing the job and doing that job safely, right? So here's the question. Oh, and did I mention that this is going to be a bit of a long video? There's going to be some chapter markers. You can come back. And honestly, to tell you the truth, if you're new to the channel, I look at it as about information. If you're looking for something you can get in 1 or 2 minutes, I do have some short videos, but honestly, I'm here to give you safety information. But anyway, back to that first question. What if we concentrated on creating a paradigm that actually looked at the job in a realistic way? By this, I mean a model right from the conception of the position to the posting, putting the job on the market, to hiring and hiring that right individual, to managing the person, dealing with claims, discipline, and even succession planning. No, you don't have to start from scratch. You can actually build this from the middle. You can start right from where you are.
Wow, Kevin, really?
Let's start with the position, the job, if you will. What if you worked with workers familiar with the tasks being performed and started to look at not only the hazards associated with the job and the implementation of controls, a hazard assessment, but you actually added another dynamic or two to it as well? You looked at 2 additional factors. The first one, the physical demands of the job, such as how much is required to lift, pull, push, carry, the actions behind the tasks, the oomph, if you will, but also how long the body has to be in certain positions, like sitting, standing, crouching, what jobs have to be done from certain positions. What you're doing is a physical demands analysis. With that, you could easily determine what the bona fide occupational requirements are for the job, the BFORs, if you will. What these actually are, these physical tasks that must be achieved to get the job done. Instead of just tossing in, must be able to lift 50 pounds here and there in many job, like you see in job postings and descriptions, and it isn't often needed. You would actually be determining what it takes to do the job. Yes, I'm talking about a physical demands analysis of the job. A physical demands analysis, also sometimes called a PDA, sometimes also referred to as a physical demands description or a PDD, is a detailed objective description of the physical demands required to complete the essential and non-essential tasks of a job. Even more important, when you're doing this, you're now creating a methodology for the other management paths of worker management. For example, return to work models. After an absence from things like injury, maternity leaves, etc., you would gain an understanding on how to properly manage that worker coming back from an extended absence and how to properly reintegrate them back in, hopefully without mishap. But wait, there's more. I know, I sound like a shopping channel commercial, don't I? Yeah, I'm that old. Now, what you've done is you've now established a set of physical requirements for the position that you can actually include in the job posting. This way, you actually get people who understand what the job's about and they're applying knowing that they can do it. Well, once again, my fantasy, right? So when you're looking for hiring that position, you can do this, but also you get a set of abilities that can be tested or observed during the new hire orientation process and the probationary period. Say, for instance, you might actually want to see if that person can truly lift 50 pounds if it is a bona fide occupational requirement, or that they can climb an extension ladder, or they can get into a small confined space. Put it this way, organizations want to see certificates, but do they actually see if the person holding the certificate can actually operate that forklift or that piece of machine? I know nobody would ever forge a certificate, right? Right? So why doesn't this apply to physical stuff? I once worked in an organization where someone working in maintenance did not like to go up on roofs or scale ladders. They were afraid of heights. This, of course, wasn't discovered until well after they were hired. I know, big surprise, right? What I'm trying to get at here is, do you actually see if someone can actually physically perform those tasks and skills during the orientation? Think about it. Doing a PDA could help you create an even better new hires orientation than what you already have right now. You do have one, right? right? If you wanted to get further into it, you could even create a cognitive demands analysis.
A what?
Okay, that's kind of like a physical demands analysis, but for the brain. How much does the job tax the brain?
Is that necessary?
You might not think it's necessary. Well, let's chat on that for a bit. So, the definition of a cognitive demands analysis, or a CDA, if you will, is a detailed, objective evaluation of the specific cognitive, emotional, and psychological skills required to perform essential and non-essential tasks of a job. A cognitive demands analysis should capture the cognitive, emotional, mental, and psychological requirements. In your jurisdiction, you might look at it differently. These might be captured as mental and psychosocial skills required to complete essential and non-essential job tasks. Whatever the definition, either way, the CDA should look at the following skills to be included: memory, attention, recognition, communication, problem solving, critical thinking, and time pressures. Now, CDAs have been around for years. Traditionally, though, often done at the injured worker end as a process to reintegrate them back into the workforce. Now, the only problem is they're done by others possibly not familiar with the nuances of the job, with an effort to see if the person is ready to go back to their previous job in some capacity.
Wow, that's really deep.
I know this sounds like a lot, but let's think about it just for a second or two. If you did this and did that CDA, you might be able to solve that return to work issue even faster, because you could instantly provide the worker's physician, medical practitioner, and of course the long-term carrier with an accurate portrayal of a day in the life of, making that integration just a bit easier. Think about it. You have an accurate description of what doing the job at 100% capacity looks like. This makes accommodations based on the returning workers assessment a whole lot easier now, doesn't it? But further to that, it might also help you deal with that nasty drug testing issue. Between having a comprehensive PDA and now a CDA, you would definitely be able to help your organization to determine exactly what safety-sensitive positions look like and how they might need to have some sort of drug screening. The problem is most people just think things like heavy equipment operators, truck drivers, etc., where there's a higher risk of injury to self and others. But entertain me this for just a second. What about the CFO or some senior person working in finance that has significant signing authority or is responsible for accounts payable and them being impaired? See, there's other risks too. So here's yet another question. Do the people doing the hiring, the orientations, and the monitoring of the work actually understand the requirements of the work, the possible limitations of the workers? Like I said, right from the start, you don't have to start this from scratch, but you could create a process where the jobs are examined for the physical demands and schedule it when performing the hazard assessments. Add that bit in about the physical demands, and you're already working with the workers familiar with the tasks already. Now, there's lots of available templates you could use. You don't have to add CDAs in at the moment, but if you do and you have the resources, it could put you head and shoulders above the rest that you're working around and make things like claims management, worker accommodation, graduated return to work, and hazard assessments so much simpler and so much better. Now, there's a few links in the description. They weren't hard to find. It took some doing, but it'll get you springboarded if you want. All it did is took me a bit of Googling. There's going to be another video about that. I'm also going to do something I haven't done in quite a while. So if you're new to the channel and you've stuck around this far, why don't you click that subscribe button, ding the bell, and that way you get notified of new content. Here we talk about all sorts of safety stuff, from hazard and risk assessment all the way to, well, stuff like this. And the other thing is I'm trying to form a community, and part of that community is trying to get across to people the most important thing to realize is about safety leadership is you don't have to be high on the corporate food chain to be a safety leader. You just actually have to want to make a difference. And you can do that by being a safety leader, talking the talk and walking the walk, provoking safety by leading by example. Okay, take care. Bye for now.